No problem. Great discussion going on here. Next, we'd like to turn to Representative LaMalfa. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chivney. Appreciate it. Mr. Adams, I want to just get a little background of, sorry, I've missed a portion of the hearing here, of your company and its ownership there. Is it primarily owned by the Navajo Nation?
Yes, Congressman, we are wholly owned by the Navajo Nation.
Okay. And I know of the Four Corners power plant as well.
That is correct.
It's had some hard times in recent years. What is its current status on operation? Like what percentage of its, how hard are you able to run the plant and such?
So Four Corners power plant is doing very well. A lot of that power is being bought from states west of that apparently don't burn coal.
Any of it sold into California, do you think?
Absolutely.
Oh, California buying that, huh?
We own a percentage of the Four Corners power plant. APS is still the controller of that. The San Juan plant just closed, unfortunately, and we were with some other groups that were very involved in doing a carbon capture project, but PNM, from pressures from certain groups, stripped that plant as quickly as possible so it couldn't be converted to a carbon capture.
How long, is that underway?
Yeah, that's already taken place.
Okay. What was the source of the coal?
Source of the coal from that was the San Juan mine.
Where was that at again?
It's just off the nation in New Mexico, just outside of Farmington, New Mexico.
Okay, thank you. Tell me about the technology in order to operate the plant there. What technology, as far as the cleanliness and such, was most recently in place?
Sure, absolutely. I think, I mean, as I laid out earlier, there's been $126 billion invested by coal companies in utilities into power plants. Mm-hmm. If you haven't been to a coal plant, if you haven't been to a coal generating electrical plant, you should make that happen. It would, I think everyone would be very surprised at what they saw from a cleanliness perspective, from an environmental perspective, from how the process works. I think that's a very, very important field trip that we would love to work with our partners in West Virginia, just from a proximity perspective, to make that happen for this committee, to understand that process, to understand everything that is taking place from an emissions perspective in the coal plants. As Asia has continued to build out coal plants, they're using the newest, latest technologies.
And let's talk about the output of the effluent, the smoke, whatever, between, let's say, a plant made in 1940 and the one today. How much cleaner are we talking about with particulate, with gases, et cetera?
I don't have those exact numbers.
Well,
I don't get those speeds, but it is
spitball it a bit.
What we're doing now isn't even comparable from a tech. I mean, we're 5 iterations of technology past where we were. When people look at pictures of a smokestack at a coal plant, they're like, look at the smoke. Look at that steam.
I know they play that a lot.
Absolutely,
a lot of steam coming out of things.
It's played all the time. But the emissions are. I would live on the east side of a coal plant, dealing with the wind blowing that over my house all day, every day.
All right, thank you, Mr. Summers. Following up on previous conversation, and I've heard a lot in the conversation here about how important it is we have a domestic supply, that we've ceded so much to China, and China has moved in on other countries and basically has got the market cornered on so many critical minerals and rare earths, et cetera. What's our potential in this country if we had environmental laws that are more realistic about what we need to do at the same time as we're trying to mandate everything to be electrified?
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned in my testimony, for those 51 commodities that were more than 50% reliant, Utah alone has production or historical production of 20 of those. On the original 2018 critical minerals list, we host 28 of those 35 critical minerals. So again, just in one state, we have the ability to really lessen our dependence on foreign imports. And if you expand that to other mining states, to Arizona, to New Mexico, even California. There's a lot of opportunity to end that reliance. But again, you have to have the incentive for investment, and you have to have rational environmental laws so that capital will come here.
Now, what does the footprint look like usually for a typical mine? I know we've made massive national monuments and set asides, hundreds of thousands, even million acres. What's the footprint of a mine over its, say, 50-year life? How many acres does it need to do the job?
It depends, to be honest, because I mean, our big copper mine in the state, Rio Tinto Kennecott, is a massive mine, and part of that is because the concentrations of copper and gold and silver, palladium, other things you can get from that mine is very small. But we also have, the only working beryllium mine in the U.S., which provides about 70% of our beryllium. You can't have an F-35, you can't have an F-22 without beryllium. That's a fairly small operation.
How many acres is that beryllium mine, you think?
I don't know exact acreage.
Yes, a square mile, what do you think?
I mean, I would say it's under 1,000 acres, the whole operation.
Okay,
so
that's
I mean,
about
a pretty substantial, a fairly compact mine, because the concentrations of beryllium are very substantial.
How about the copper mine? How big is the copper mine, you think, in footprint?
I mean, it takes a whole mountain range, frankly. So I mean, it's you can see it from,
how much scar do you see? How much disturbed area would you see?
It's very visible. It's very visible. But the parts that are actively mined are visible. The parts that have been reclaimed, you wouldn't even know that they've ever been mined in. And that's, I think, a difference between what we do in the U.S. versus what happens in some of these foreign countries, where the environmental degradation is substantial.
Absolutely. I appreciate your indulgence, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield back.